I was at Long Island Gaming Retro this earlier in August this year, and they had a Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
Oh yeah, cool.
And the people I was with, I pointed it out because one of them said, "I've never even seen that before," and let me tell you, I've beaten it.
Yeah.
3-player with Sam Kennedy and Chris Baker. That was like our big thing when we were in New York that time.
Yep.
Oh my God. Great memories.
Hello and welcome to Growing Up Gaming. In the previous episode, I was talking about game rentals, how important they were to me as a kid, and the impact that working at game rental stores had on my overall career as I got into my teens and early 20s. Basically, working at a game rental store led directly into me jumping into fansites. The fansite community was really strong in the mid to late 90s, and I saw that as a stepping stone to possibly moving on to a professional career in video games, especially in video games media. And that's exactly what happened. Ultimately, I ended up co-founding GamingAge.com with a wonderful group of other people, Sam Kennedy, Brady Fichter, Dave Toole, Dennis Day, I believe, Jim Cordera. We founded Gaming Age, and it's still running almost 30 years later. It's one of the longest running video game fan sites out there. But the fansite community was super strong in the late 90s, and there were a lot of us, I think, who were trying to use it as a launching pad to more professional careers within the games industry, and there were a lot of us who were really successful at that. One of the people who was the most successful is one of my co-founders, Sam Kennedy, currently the head of Tigertron Games, but in past years was part of the relaunch of GameFan Online, worked at GameSpot, worked at Electronic Gaming Monthly briefly, worked as the news editor at Official PlayStation Magazine, was the driving force behind OneUp.com, and has worked in multiple PR positions and community positions since then. Sam's a great guy, one of my favorite people. I don't get to talk to him nearly as much as I'd like, but we started out together and we came up together, and part of that was founding Gaming Age Online. So I had a chance to sit down and chat with Sam for about a half hour, 45 minutes earlier this week to discuss starting that website, to discuss fan sites, and where they took us. So we'll jump into that right now.
So I'm here with Sam Kennedy, who I've known for longer than I think either of us cares to remember. Because I have no hair, I can hide the gray. But Sam, I don't know. It's
I got gray. I got plenty. Yeah, all over.
You finally look 30.
I know.
Yeah, Sam.
What was it? My nickname was Young Sam or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were when we first met. Well, we'll get into that, but you've always looked. You're kind of like Chris Baker from OPM too, where he has only recently started to look older than like early 20s. Yeah. So, and he's well past that. But yeah, Sam, tell people who you are.
Yeah. So, got my start in the industry with Gaming Age with Greg way back. But basically, started out as a games journalist through Gaming Age, and then kind of made my way to working for professional websites and magazines like EGM and OPM and Official PlayStation Magazine for people who don't know that. And OneUp.com and GameSpot, others, basically did the whole games journalism thing for a good decade, which was amazing. It was a great period in games, and a whole lot of fun, and a lot of, met so many great, gaming, visionaries and all of that. And then after working in sort of the journalism side of things, moved over to working in games marketing. And for a few years, I was running kind of the digital marketing, social media, community, all that for Activision with their agency Edelman. So basically worked on the big blockbuster franchises like Call of Duty and Destiny and Skylanders and Guitar Hero, and which was amazing. It was a lot of fun. It was crazy. You launch a game and it was like, oh, did we hit $1 billion? How quickly did we hit $1 billion this time? And it was just crazy. But it was a thrill ride, that was for sure. But then after doing that for a bunch of years too, it was kind of like, oh, we really kind of want to get back to my roots, working on smaller projects, smaller teams, kind of doing more of the indie game things, and started a studio with my good buddy James Milkey, formerly of EGM and GMR and a bunch of 1UP as well. So we started a studio in New York called Tigertron, and we put out a game called Jupiter and Mars first, kind of underwater adventure game with dolphins. And then just recently, we put out a new game called Starwave, which is a sort of a crazy music rhythm dance game in space. And then I've also been working with a studio called SkyMap, which we actually partnered with on for Starwave. And they're a New England-based game studio as well, and we've been building some more original games with that studio too.
Nice.
So, yeah, doing a lot of the kind of the indie games thing these days.
So New England-based studio. So you're staying near your roots then, because you're from New England originally, right? So
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Gaming Age in particular, but fan sites in general in the 90s. Because like you said, like we met each other. We actually met each other in Gaming Enthusiast.
Yep.
So you were running Gaming Enthusiast at the time. Now I know, like for me personally, I was sort of trolling Usenet. Trolling's probably the wrong word. I was hanging out on Usenet and on the different message boards, and kind of ended up syncing up with Jim Cordera, who currently runs Gaming Age still.
Yeah.
After all these years. And I forget the name of the other guy, but he was doing some kind of Saturn fan site, and the three of us kind of got grouped together, and then we got folded into or partnered up with Gaming Enthusiasts. I
still don't know how and exactly why we did that, but I'm glad we did. I think it was just basically we were just all big fans of each other's work, and we were kind of like, hey, what if we all just work together and do something bigger and cooler and all that? And I think that's how it started.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's how I met you, and I don't really know what the story was behind how Gaming Enthusiasts got started. It was already there by the time I got there, but
yeah, Gaming Enthusiasts. Let's see. Well, so the first site that I started was called Gamers Online.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was, I don't even know why that went away, but like that was like my first dabble into like, and this was like right when the internet was starting. It was like I remember my brother showing me the internet, and I was like, whoa, wait, you can do your own like online magazine? Like, this is crazy, this is amazing. And then like that night put up a website and just was like enamored with it. It was just like, oh my god. So it started with that Gamers Online site, and then that just basically evolved into Gaming Enthusiasts. I really don't know why, but it did. And then that's where we got. I think I remember back then what was so great was with Gaming Enthusiast putting up some reviews, and then having, I think it was like Konami's website like linked to them or something like that. They had like a links page, remember those? So like, and I don't know if that's maybe how we first connected, or maybe it was just through IRC or something, I'm not sure, but like a lot of people found my site that way. I think it was via Konami's links page.
Can I ask, how old were you when you started gamers.com? You should have hung on to that URL, by the way.
Oh, it was Gamers Online or something.
Oh, Gamers Online. Okay.
Yeah. I was probably 16 or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was like
Like by the time I met you, and by the time that would all happen, I just remember, because it was really similar thing for me, where I wanted to write about games, and I just didn't know how to get myself out there, because of course, being in like Eastern Canada, video game magazines were things that were made like miles away, and it was just sort of like there was no way that was ever going to happen.
Well, I was the same way in Connecticut, though, to be honest. Like, it was like, how is that possible? And that's why, like, when the when the internet kind of emerged, it was like, whoa, wait a second, this is like anyone can do this.
Right. All I need is a connection and a typewriter. Oh my God, a keyboard. And so when I remember us joining and starting to contribute to Gaming Enthusiast Online, and I thought that I'd already made the big time,
yeah,
because it was a well-respected site at that point. But yeah, so then things happened, this happened, and that happened, and a group of us ended up breaking off. And I don't remember. Do you remember how we came up with the name Gaming Age? I know there were other options.
I do not. I can't remember why. I mean, it must have been just like, it's the age of games. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. But
it's a gaming age.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember us. I mean, there were a lot of us. It wasn't just you and I. I mean, there was Jim Cordera, there was Brady Fichter, there was Dennis Day, Dave Toole.
Yeah.
We
put them. I mean, even loosely, I think we got probably Che to write a thing or two here or there, and other So a lot of folks who kind of were in that sort of IRC circle, Marty Chin, everybody.
Right. Well, that was the thing too. And I also remember we got a lot of help early on from Pete Bartholow.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
He really helped out, just getting the site on its feet and sort of giving us a lot of advice, because he had already worked at Fusion at that point, which was a magazine at Ziff Davis. I think it was Fusion. Or was it Game
or Intelligent Gamer?
Intelligent Gamer, that's what it was. I think it became Fusion, or it started as Fusion or something like that. But like you just mentioned Che Chow, like that's one of the other things that, looking back on Gaming Age, kind of always blows me away, is that this is part and parcel with the vid games hashtag vid games channel on IRC, that we almost became like I don't know how to put it, like a minor league.
Yeah,
like,
we were.
People who were getting real jobs would like come through Gaming Age, just either to fill out their portfolio. Sorry, I have a visitor here. Or like, I know that sometimes it was a matter of like, it was Ziff Davis a lot. We want to hire you, but you don't have any published work. Go write a review on Gaming Age.
Right. And it was, it's an interesting way you put it. Yeah. Like it was kind of the minor leagues. Yeah. And it's such a conduit into Ziff Davis, especially, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I remember being really excited about when we had the site sort of established was that we got to go to E3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? I know my first E3 was '98 in Atlanta. Was that yours as well, or?
E3 '98 in Atlanta. Yes, that was the one, right? Was it? Yeah, because I wanted to. I sadly missed '97. '97 was in Atlanta as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I missed that, but '98. Yeah. That was the one.
Any fond memories of going to your first E3 as a?
I just remember. I mean, I remember being blown away. It was fantastic getting to meet everybody. But the one thing that still sticks with me today was that we had a writer on the site at the time, and his handle was Tarantino.
Yeah.
And, just great writer, and all that. And we were gonna room together at E3, and we had booked the hotel and stuff like that, or I did, or he did, or whatever. But I didn't actually know his real name. Like, so when we showed up, and I was like, oh shit, I actually don't even know the guy's real name. Like, he's Tarantino. And so I think maybe I was checking in, or I didn't even know. So it was just like, what an error, right? Or like, young and stupid, and we just didn't even know better. But I still remember that. But,
It's funny because that's so normal now. I mean, I know so many people by their online handles,
right?
Not by their actual names.
Yeah, but I guess it was like, but someone you work with, and then you were gonna like, room with at a show, and you just didn't even know it. It was crazy to me. But yeah, no, I think the other part of it was it E3. I think it was '98. I think I just maybe graduated high school, and then like the next day went to E3 or something like that. So it was such a moment for me too, just to like Yeah, like
babies.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I think I remembered telling my classmates, I'm going to E3 tomorrow. Yeah.
And one of the other things that I remember about that is, of course, obviously with E3, one of the big things was not sneaking your way in, but not necessarily having the proper credentials to get in. And I think Gaming Age also became a conduit for that. I can't count the number of people, especially from the Big Games IRC channel, who went as part of Gaming Age.
Yep. That was for sure. Yeah. We had I do definitely remember that, like having people write up, or like maybe I remember I think it was that E3 or one of those early E3s where we literally went into the press room, copied the HTML of an article, changed the body text, and then like printed that out with body text or whatever, like with the right name or whatever for whoever we needed to get in. And then we'd just print those out, bring it to the front of E3, and that's how they got their badges or something. It was
It was awesome. Yeah. I remember too, of course, the thing, and we both experienced this obviously as you get into the industry proper. E3 becomes a much bigger deal, and outside of just the show itself, you're running from meeting to meeting. You're kind of trying to make cover deals and coverage deals and things like that, as well as, of course, the parties afterward or the meetings afterward and everything. But going back then as part of a fan site that nobody'd heard of, most of our time was spent back in the hotel room after the show was over, if we couldn't sneak our way into some of those parties. And I do vividly remember at various points, because we were so, at least I remember being this way, we were so diligent where it's like, if we're going to be good at this, every press release we get, we got to put online. Like, absolutely everything we get at E3, we have to put online. So I remember sitting in the middle of a hotel room where there was probably 30 people tapping away on a borrowed laptop, posting the most banal press releases. It didn't matter what it was about. It was video game related. It was going on the site. Like, I don't know.
Well,
if that was.
Meanwhile, I was at the Sony party. No, I'm just kidding. No. I remember it was a lot of work, and then but I do remember getting into some of those parties, and they were epic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
a glimpse into what we wanted to be doing with our lives anyway.
Right.
was that your goal when you, maybe not necessarily when you started doing fan sites, but when it seemed like we were all sort of getting pretty serious by the late 90s about having a career? Like, was that what you wanted to do?
Absolutely. It was like, it gave me, I don't know if you were this, I mean, you assume you were, but like, every time I would like wait in such anticipation for that issue of Game Fan or EGM to arrive in my mailbox, and it was like, there was nothing more important to me in life basically than finding out what was going to be in that new issue. It just, like, it was my dream. It was just everything to me. So getting to write about games, like for Gaming Age, and getting into the industry, like, it was just I don't know, it was like almost like a one track mind. It was like, that's all I want to do, that's all life should be about.
Right.
Definitely grown up a lot since then, but
yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, I the way I look at it is I managed to launch a career out of it without any sort of formal training on it. Do you, so going back to Gaming Age and creating it, I mean, I think personally, you established a bit of a reputation pretty early on for, I don't know if it was you who was finding sort of relatively big scoops, or you had a whole shadowy network of people who were doing that for you. But I remember that being one of your strengths, is that, like, I remember seeing, I can't pick up a particular story, but I remember seeing multiple times where we had stories that it didn't seem like any of the fan sites had, and we hadn't just copied it from one of the big sites. And I never had any idea where you got that stuff from. Were you?
Yeah, it was, if I remember back, it was a good network, I would say. Folks that, just talking to folks in, what was great back then too was we had a lot of friends in Japan. We had friends in in Europe as well, and just some had sources, some worked at other maybe magazines or places like that, and maybe it's so long now so that I can say some of this stuff, but like maybe they couldn't publish some of that themselves, and so yeah, I think a lot of it was that. It was just but the other part too was just really keeping an eye out for the stories too, and trying to dig too, which that was sort of when I did kind of move from gaming age into the more professional side. Like that was I was a news editor at the time, and that was kind of my thing, was having a lot of sources, a lot of different ways to get it. Yeah. So
you were known for that. I remember, because our paths kind of diverged, because you went to Game Fan Online first, I believe.
Yep.
But then when you were sort of coming into the Ziff Davis fold, I remember a lot of excitement in sort of the Ziff Davis group that you were going to be coming and helping us out because of the reputation you had. I think it's kind of interesting too that another Gaming Age alum, Patrick Klepek, kind of ended up with the same reputation. He ended up having the same nose for that sort of thing. So I'm assuming you mentored him, right? You can take all the credit for that.
I don't know if I could take credit or even just say I mentored him, but I definitely feel like I did see a lot in him, a lot of potential. And when he started writing, I think for the site when he was 14.
Yeah,
he
was young,
and his writing was terrible, but
it was.
But he definitely had the right passion for it. He had he knew he was going to get it, and like the writing would come, he would get there. So yeah, I definitely just knew, I saw it in him, but like I don't know. You were probably one of the more sticklers about, let's just say, like quality editorial, quality writing. And I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if he ever caused you grief or not.
Oh, I think I might have found the email a few years back. I don't have it anymore, but there was an email at one point that I sent to him, basically saying like, we're not going to publish anything else you write for a little while until you improve,
right.
Which is so funny, because going back and looking at some of the early reviews that all of us wrote, they're rough.
Oh yeah.
But I think they were good by fansite standards back then. But yeah, we fired Patrick before he became Patrick. We brought him back though.
Yeah. It's so funny though. Yeah, but I think it was I remember too, one time when I was at Ziff, I think we had someone had a party, one of the EGM guys had a party, and Patrick showed up to that too, and I think he was his dad dropped him off or something to the party and stuff. I don't know if you were there or if you remember it at all.
I think actually I wonder if that might be, because I've told this story before. The first weekend I lived in Chicago, the Chicagoland area, you came to town.
Oh yeah.
And you and I and Rob Fleischer went to a Halloween party.
That might have,
folks.
Yep,
that might have been it.
That might have been it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember because Patrick was in the Chicago area and a lot of us didn't know him. And at one point we all went over to his place to play DDR, but he was still a kid.
Yeah.
So we're there and his mom is there, right? And saying this, it's so nice of you to come hang out with him. It's really, really kind of you. Oh my God. With Gaming Age, of course, it started to grow, and it became big, I think, within a very specific circle. Especially there were a lot of Ziff Davis people who were keeping an eye on it and that sort of thing, and poaching or again using it as kind of a getting other people using it as a stepping stone. Do you remember, was there any eureka moment where it was just like, we've got something here, like something, this is bigger than we thought it was going to be? Anything like that?
I mean, one thing that came to mind was I remember when we became part of the Imagine Games network. Yep. And then they would print, or they would show Gaming Age in in the magazines, and I think that was the moment I was like, okay, we're you know, I mean, they think we're credible enough to be, you know, part of their network. We're an extension of well, I guess Future or Imagine Games or whatever. So yeah, that was probably the moment.
Yeah, I think for me it was a similar thing where it was and I still have this game downstairs. We ended up getting a box quote on I think it was Microsoft Flight Sim 98.
Yep. Okay. I think I remember that.
Yeah. And that to me was just like, oh my God, like we're real.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. I think I still have some stuff that has like gaming age box quotes. Yeah, I wonder if I had that one, but yeah. I remember that. That was really cool.
I also remember at one point we got and I'm not going to say the author's name because they're still active, and but I remember we got offered an interview with an author that had just published a video game book, and I did the interview, and we published it, and I think the next day the author's people reached out and claimed that it wasn't them that I'd been talking to.
Yeah, I vaguely remember something. Oh yeah, what happened? Yeah,
we pulled it. Although I wish I had that. I wish I wasn't a dumb kid and I had it to do over then, because I feel like it was just something that they might have said that they weren't happy about.
Right.
And the only reason they would even bring it up, I hadn't thought about that in years, but I actually started a new book last night, and I was reading sort of the foreword, and this author actually got mentioned in the foreword, and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that name, like, and I remember why I remember that name, and knowing that I was going to have this conversation with you. But yeah, I think to me it was the box quote for sure.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it was when people started getting jobs all around.
You're right. You know, I was definitely conflicted when I left, but I knew it was time too. I was like, you know, I mean, it was to have the path, you know, I knew that's what I wanted to do when I had like you know, an offer and everything like that. It was like, okay. But also I remember when I was working on the site, I was in college, and it was tough to wrestle or to juggle, you know, all my classes, working on the site all night, trying to have somewhat of a social life. Like I remember my roommates would be having like parties and stuff, and here I'm trying to update the site and stuff like that. And it was just, you know, it was like something had to give. So I think I was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna take the plunge.
Did you finish college before you went off to?
No, I didn't, and it was that was a tough choice too. But it was like, you know what, my dream is calling right now, and college would be there. But
yeah. I remember you leaving. I was sad to see you go personally, because I felt like we had, you know, there were again a few of us who were like the founding members of the site had kind of a close partnership at that point.
Yeah.
And it was we'd have the other people that had come through and moved on, but when you left, it was like, oh, that's like one of the key, like one of the founders of the site. And I remember you said something very kind to me when we were chatting, like on one of the last times that you were there. You just said like, you're going to be next. Like, you're going to be the next person to get something. It didn't quite come true, but it was, that stuck with me because it was such a kind thing to say. Cause I guess I must've been exuding the whole, like, you know, I'm really happy for you, but I'm also kind of jealous that, that you're moving on, cause you're getting to do what I really want to do. But
well, I mean, I definitely knew back then. I mean, you like, I mean, I don't know. I really felt like you were like, you know, just a big part of like the heart and soul of it, but also just like really talented and really, you know, and just like had that passion for it too, in a way that it was inevitable. So
yeah. And I'm so proud of it in general. I'm so proud of that site for a lot of reasons. One of the main ones has always been, you know, like I said, you can rattle off a list of names that came through there. Some were more involved than others, but like with you and with me and Dave, I'm not sure what Dave does nowadays, but I know he was deep in GameSpot for a long time.
Yeah, and then IGN.
And then IGN.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah, like Che Chow and Brady Fichter. I haven't talked to him in years, but he was sort of hooked at the hip with Dave Hallerson there for the longest time too. Just Mark McDonald, so many names that went through there. Ravi Hiranand, I think, was another one who did stuff for us. So, but the other thing that I still can't get over is that this is a site that was founded in 1997 and it's still going.
I know. Yeah. I mean, no, you're right. And when so many of the other sites eventually dropped off, like, there were a lot of sites that say, I mean, what else from that era is still around? Like maybe GameFAQs or something like.
Yeah, and I mean, GameFAQs isn't even really what it was anymore. I mean, CJC left that site a long time ago, right? I mean, it was bought, and good for him that it was purchased. But I think that's the other thing is that, like, fan-driven sites, I just can't get over that the Gaming Age is still around. I mean, and I think a lot of that credit goes to Jim Cordera, because for all of us who really wanted a job in the industry, it seemed like Jim didn't necessarily want that. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. And it makes me so happy to see. The other thing that it's still around, and I hope it continues. Maybe someday Jim will gift it to his kids or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, but I hope it continues. The thing that was funny to me too is, like, I remember being one of the E3s years ago, whatever, and probably when I was in marketing or something, and seeing folks come by with like Gaming Age badges and stuff, and I was like, whoa, that is crazy. That is awesome. Like, and people, I had no idea who they were or anything like that, but I was just like, good for you. Yeah. And that was part of its purpose.
Exactly. I mean, and I think that's the reason that I love it is, like, I'm sure that the people there don't even know. If you were to, like, introduce yourself, I doubt most people would even know, not necessarily not know who you are, because you're still actively releasing games, but they wouldn't know what connection you had with gaming, unless you're introducing yourself to Jim. But but yeah, I love that it's still around. I love that one of the founding members is still running it. I can't believe that he's still doing it, because he's still doing it in his spare time. I mean, Jim's married, he's got kids, he's got a career, and it's still going.
The last time I saw Jim was randomly at a Foo Fighters show, I think in New Jersey or something like that.
Awesome.
And the other thing that I want to touch on, because the other thing that I still can't believe is that our forum became NeoGAF.
Right. Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of it was crazy to see it from a distance, though. I was so, like, at that point, when all that kind of was going down and it was spun off and all of that, it was sort of like I was just, like, busy doing it was probably 1UP at the time or something, just like, so kind of just seeing it from a distance, I had no idea really, but it was like, but we, as much as we say how IRC was a big part of the vid games, IRC channel was a big part of, like, the DNA of Gaming Age, the forum was as well, like our community really, a lot of content came from there, but a lot of great, like, just memes and discussion and just everything kind of came through there. So when it eventually was spun off, it was like, oh wow, that's crazy. Like, and then it kind of kept on, I don't know. Turned into a monster.
It flew a little too close to the sun, I think, eventually. But I remember, because I was the same way. Like, I didn't pay super close attention to it after I'd moved on. And I think the first time I really realized what was happening is the first time I read a news story that sourced NeoGAF. And it was just like, wait, what's NeoGAF? And then I went and looked. It's like, holy crap! This is the old, like, this. I mean, the old forum was long gone at that point, but it's like, this is our forum. I might have been one of the first people to ever post on NeoGAF, or whatever, what became NeoGAF.
Right.
just to test the thing to make sure it worked. But
yeah,
boggles my mind. And that's really, that was why I wanted to sort of get you in here and just have a quick conversation about it, because I mean, it was, I think it launched both our careers. It launched so many careers, and I can't get over that. I mean, it was aspirational, I guess, when we started it, but to see what it became, to see that it's been going almost 30 years. And I'd love to put together a comprehensive list of who came through there and who ended up, I mean, I know there are people at Nintendo right now who started out at Gaming Age. I know there are people all over the industry who started out at Gaming Age. So that would be an interesting piece for sure, or like some sort of something about that. Like a family tree of, or like who came through there. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. That along with video games. Yeah, I think we own the industry. Listen, thank you so much for this. Any final thoughts on your days at Gaming Age before you became a big time video game executive?
Gosh. No, I mean, it just, I really enjoyed this chat because it's brought back a lot of memories. And, I mean, all I guess I would say is just, I'm hopeful that a lot, like, it's still doing what it did for us, which is like giving people a great path in the industry, a great starting place. And I'm just so proud that it's still around. I tell people, there's this site that, crazy enough, like we were working on when I was in high school. And it still exists.
It's wild. I'm so excited for it, especially, like I said, approaching its 30th anniversary. And like you said before, when we were chatting,
let's do something.
Yeah, we should. And when we were chatting pre-show, you mentioned how it just reviewed your latest game.
Yeah, I know. It's a trip. It's a total. I don't even get it. But it's just life is crazy sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. Thanks
for setting it up, and it's been great catching up.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hope you enjoyed that little trip down memory lane. Thank you so much to Sam. He's a super busy guy. And again, I don't get to talk to him nearly as much as I'd like to, but he was very generous with his time here. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And hey, let me know in the comments below if you have had your own fan site, if you've blogged, if you've used it as building a portfolio, if you used to check out the old fan sites of the mid to late 90s, because it was a really vibrant community back then, and what that might have meant to you and what kind of impact it might have had on your life. In the meantime, stay safe, be kind to one another. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all again next time.